Good morning. I am back to talk about sex again. I am Jessa Zimmerman. I am a sex therapist in Seattle, and I specialize in helping otherwise happy couples who are struggling with sex. And one of the most common ways I see people struggle is what we call desire discrepancy. So one person wants sex more than the other. Of course, if you think about it, because why would any two people want sex the same, right? The exact same amount. So there's always this higher desire person and a lower desire person, and that can cause all kinds of issues, stress and tension and hard feelings and conflict and guilt and shame and disappointment and rejection and all this stuff. But one of the things that'll happen so frequently with couples that are struggling is they fall into what I call the sexual avoidance cycle. So there is this cycle people get caught in and get wrapped around like tighter and tighter as it happens. So that's the subject today, the sexual avoidance cycle. So this is what happens when you have experiences that basically don't live up to your expectations. So something is going wrong. Now I'm using wrong in air quotes because I think we have to challenge those expectations. But when you have experiences where it doesn't go the way you think it should, right? Um, what happens doesn't go the way you think it should. Who's feeling what? Who's initiating? What's happening with your body? How connected do you feel? Any of these things that seem to go badly um, or wrong will lead to negative feelings, right? I mean, at the very least, disappointment. Okay. Um, but also, often it's worse than that, right? Feelings of inadequacy, feelings, thinking you are broken, worried that something is wrong with you or with your partner or with your relationship, right? If you have this idea that it should just work naturally, you shouldn't, if I'm with the right person, sex should just work. You can start to worry that something's really wrong with your relationship. You can feel shame, guilt, depending on what's going on, right? You can feel rejected. You can feel fear. All these kinds of emotions come up when sex seems to go badly. That makes sense, right? We feel bad about it. If that happens often enough, then someone's going to start avoiding sex. Because human nature is to avoid the things that make us feel bad, right? If you think about it, if you're afraid of, I don't know, if you're afraid of flying, uh, you're going to avoid it, right? Um, whatever the situation is you're going to start to avoid it. So like, why would you go eagerly back to the bedroom, skipping off to be intimate with your partner if you there's some chance you're going to come out feeling bad, worse than you did when you started, right? Even if it goes well some of the times, if it goes badly the other times, there's this risk there, right? So there starts to be avoidance. It's really human nature because of all those negative feelings. But the problem is, when you avoid something, it doesn't just magically get better on its own. It's not like, oh, it takes care of itself while we're not looking. It actually increases the pressure. So again, if you're afraid of flying and you avoid flying, that anxiety doesn't go away. It actually gets bigger. Okay? If you're avoiding sexual intimacy in your relationship because you're trying to avoid those situations where it goes badly, well, basically the feelings you have about those situations, the pressure gets more increased. There's more and more pressure on your sex life. Now, part of that is because there's these ideas that we should be having sex and we're not, right? Because we're avoiding it. Um, there's pressure because maybe our partner wants sex, but we're avoiding it, or the other way around, right? There's pressure in that desire discrepancy. But there's also, and this is so important, more and more pressure on the sex that you actually have. What people say to me all the time is, if we had sex all the time and one time doesn't go that well, no big deal, we're having it again on Sunday, right? But if you're avoiding it and you're not having sex very frequently, there starts to be more and more pressure that the sex you do have go okay because it's so infrequent. If we're only doing this once a week, once a month, once a year, whatever, whatever infrequent sex is to you because of this avoidance, there's more and more pressure that go well, that kind of disprove this fear we have that there's a problem. Because we're not doing it very often, this time better work. But if you think about it, I mean, it makes sense. How in the world are you going to have as good an experience with your partner under that kind of pressure? You're more likely to have an experience that doesn't go so well, where you're not relaxed, you're not connecting, maybe your body is not working because of that pressure. And see, there you go again. This is why it becomes a cycle, because you have more experiences that are somehow disappointing or off or wrong, and so you have more bad feelings. And this is the cycle people will get caught in over and over and over again and really don't understand how to get out of it, right? Now, I'm going to say part of this for another video someday, but the fundamental thing that has to change is we have to change the expectations. We have to take the pressure off the system. And the only way to do that is to stop being so attached to what happens or who does what or how this goes. The truth is, you can't fail at sex. And we have to change everything so that becomes true. So, no matter what happens in your experience with your partner, it is about pleasure and connection. And it doesn't matter what happens with your body parts. And it doesn't matter who does what. And it doesn't matter what you're feeling, who feels what, right? We have to address those expectations so that we don't have the negative feelings. So, there is no reason to avoid sex and the pressure comes off. That is the basic strategy. That's basically what I help people do. I mean, I can do this whole thing in a 5 minute video, 6 minute video now. And obviously, it's easy to say this, it's harder to implement this in your relationship. You probably need more than just the idea of this to actually make the changes. Now, one of the things that I have dreamt of for more than a decade working with my clients, because I have an online course that where I teach people. I mean, I walk them through the whole process to take the pressure off their sex life, right? And get it to where you cannot fail. And one of the things I always imagined in that, because there is this is an experiential thing. You have to change this in, you know, touch experiences with your partner. Anyway, I've dreamed of this tool to help people explore touch in a way that is not loaded, that is not pressured, that becomes light and easy and maybe even playful. I mean, people that are struggling with sex, they sort of can't conceive of sex being playful anymore. But it really can be if we can take the pressure off of it, right? So I imagined this tool to help people do that. And I am so pleased to say I finally created it. It's a real thing. I made it. It's like an actual sort of game, the touchy-feely cards, because I wanted something that helps people explore, touch in a really light, playful way without any pressure, but especially focused on what you actually want. I didn't want to come up like so many of the kinds of decks that you find right now with all these ideas of what other people think you should do. And you draw a card and you're supposed to do this thing, whether it interests you or not. And so I really wanted something that was totally different than that, because my entire training and my whole approach is about what do you actually want? How is sex going to actually be engaging for you? So what I did is I created these cards. Take them out here. I've sort of separated. There are body part cards that have every body part I could think of. Now I have removed the sexual ones for right now, so I don't throw those out on Facebook. Um, there are touch cards, and these are really interesting because there's, if you can see that, there's touch to receive and touch to do. So you get to think about which one do you want combined with a body part, right? And then there are these sort of extra cards, the green ones. So I have all kinds of little props or extra kinds of things. And the idea is that you are just pairing these up into things that you actually want. And you're making requests of your partner about something you want to do to them or something you want to receive. And then they get to say whether they want to. And you end up with these options, combinations that both of you are open to or maybe even excited about. And then you can go do them. So the whole idea behind this tool is to help people explore touch in a way that is safe, that is not pressured, uh, and that you focus on what you actually want, right? Permission touch, not told what to do, because that is not going to help you want sex, okay? So these are available at touchyfeelycards.com. I just got the shipment. They're just produced. I have a bunch of them for sale, and I'm super excited to help people in a playful way. Maybe this makes a good holiday present or, or something like that for the stocking. I look forward to being of service in the future. Thank you.